it again?
Utah Beach.
Regardless of Jack that's in charge. Jack.
Middle School, and to this our 14th annual World War II Oral History Day. As I look around this gymnasium this morning, I am reminded of the words of one of my heroes, Winston Churchill, when he said, "Never have so many owed so much to so few." Today, as a fellow veteran, it is my distinct privilege to welcome you all, but especially our honorees here today. This year, we have expanded what has been billed as World War II Oral History Day to include veterans from the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Desert Storm, the Iraq War, and the war in Afghanistan. Because of each of you, this day is arguably the most anticipated day in the life of our school year after year. To be clear, we have come here today not to glorify war, but rather to honor the courage of those who answered the call, did their duty, and returned home to help build the nation we now enjoy. Today we honor a class of people who willingly set aside individual gain and personal ambition to go into harm's way to defend our freedom and the freedom of others around the world. General George S. Patton reminded us that no one hates war more than the warrior. But when war does come, as it has so many times in our history, great nations rely on brave citizens like you to take up arms and, if necessary, give their lives in a cause larger than themselves. To a person, you did just that, and we are grateful to you today.
It's interesting, a couple of you remarked on the way in that this just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until the point we couldn't do it in the library anymore, and we have to pack 500 to 600 people in here into our gymnasium, which was converted into a beautiful place for today, led largely by Mr. Font. So if we could give it up for Mr. Font. I want to say, and I know there's a lot of people who are listening to this in the classrooms, and I want to say this to every single person here at Rocky Run, especially the teachers, thank you for making this happen. This may have started with an idea 14 years ago, but this has taken over the school. And it is a wonderful tribute to the staff and students here at Rocky Run that we're able to do this. So, you know who you are, staff. Thank you. Mr. Zavala, that's for you. All the name tags, name placards, and things that he did, but in all fairness between you and I, Mrs. Roman helps out.
moving moments you're going to have with the students at this great school. And I also thank everybody who was there with the veterans for coming out to salute these men and women, I hope. Every now and again, I get invited to go down to the World War II Memorial to visit with honor flights. Honor flights are groups of veterans that are flown in from all over the country by commercial airliners who volunteer the seats for them. And they visit the memorials downtown. But the most moving moments of them, of course, is when they go to the World War II Memorial. And they see this magnificent memorial that has been made just for them. And it's always a thrill for me to go down there and to talk to them and shake hands and take some pictures and thank them again for their service. Because their service was unique, their service was terrific, it was great. And we owe them so much. And as the years go by, there are fewer veterans, but for those that remain, it's important that we pay tribute to them, we honor them as you were doing today. And so my fellow veterans of World War II, thank you for being an inspiration for me. From the time I was a child until now, you have been an inspiration by your dedication to the country, your dedication to service. I salute you.
Longest day, our finest hour, and the invasion of Normandy. Known by many different names, it has been called the most important day of the 20th century.
What's your experience like during D-Day?
Rather frightening.
Oh, thank you.
You didn't know what was coming.
Oh.
And we had been told before we landed that there was no chance of taking us back out if it failed. But they knew that we wouldn't fail. And that was something I thought about many times after that.
The second question is, did you want to participate in the invasion?
Yeah, I landed on D-Day.
Okay.
Second wave.
The third question we have for you was, what was your scariest moment in D-Day? What was your scariest moment?
After you hear so many shells that explode and gunfire going off, you don't think too much about that. But where I guess I was had the most fear, on July the 4th, we made an attack with the 83rd Infantry Division, and they sent my partner and I up on a knoll in this French farm field, and we were to direct mortar fire from there, and they came around each side of this hillside, you might say, and the Germans hit them and drove them back, and we got caught up there, and that was, to me, that was the worst feeling I ever had. I knew we were completely surrounded by Germans, except possibly in the rear, and they took prisoners probably 50 yards from where we were, out in an open field. And the only weapons we had, I had a carbine. That's one of the smaller ones. Because I carried a 20-pound radio with me. And the other ones had a 45 pistol. And that's only in good close combat. So that was really the most trying time, where I felt so insecure.
Did you have to fight your way out?
No, we crawled down a hedgerow that evening late, and when we got back to a hard surface road, we felt that's probably where the lines were going to be that night. And when we got up there, we just raised up and ran right back into the American lines. Luckily, we were there.
Fourth question was, what was your first reaction to D-Day when it was introduced to you?
What was the first action?
Reaction that you had when D-Day was introduced to you, when you were told that you would have to participate in D-Day?
We found out where we were going to go into.
Ms. Costello just asked
On the 28th of May, we We got on the boat to go to France on the 4th of June. And then, you know, they postponed it one day. And they told us, so it was about 2 weeks before we went in, they gave us live ammunition and French francs and invasion money. Then, and they took all identification we had on us away. And luckily, later on, the only thing I had a high school ring on, which told me exactly where I was from and everything, but I didn't think about it. And so we knew then where we were going. And they said they'd have maps for us, which we would use. And then, of course, in firing the mortars, in firing the mortars, we have to have the exact location of where we're firing. And they had maps set up with grids on it, north and south, and numbers, and they had real accurate maps. And we used those to direct our mortar fire.
One question I had was, how did you feel when you were going to Normandy to fight in the invasion?
Well, you soon begin to realize they had a priest come out and speak to us, and at the end they asked for prayers for all of us who would not be there the next day. And then you realize that this is not a game, it's real. And it's just something you learn very early.
Thank you. The next question I had was, did you have any close friends or in your squad?
Did I have any close friends? Yeah, I'll tell you the name of most every one in my company, which is about 100 men, 125. And some of them I were close to, some I weren't. Because you work in a squad, which is about 10 men, including everybody. And if you're assigned to a squad, you get to know those boys better than you did anybody else. Of course, I was in headquarters with the company to start with, and I got notes of people there, very close friends.
What did you tell yourself to make things better?
I can't hear you.
Oh, what did you tell yourself to make things better, like for moral support?
What did I do what?
What did you tell yourself to boost your moral support?
Moral support?
Yeah.
I don't know what I had for moral support except I was alive. And each day, I mean, if you can visualize it, all day you're fighting in, say, far from here at the road, you would see Germans. And after a certain time, we would start to shoot at each other. And it wasn't any moral support anybody could give you there. So it was just the look of the Irish. You could get shot or you didn't. And we've been Port Observer. We were with the advanced company at all the time. I was not with the advanced squad. We never had to put out a feeler for the squad like that. The infantry did that. See, I was in Company C, the 87th Chemical Mortar Battalion, which this is the gun we had. And we were in charge of that. We had been special trained in the States. But when we got to go into France, they assigned us to a specific division. So I didn't know any of those fellows. And we got assigned to the 8th Regiment, 3rd Battalion, Colonel Strickland. And we got to know one or two men there, but not very fast. It was time we got to Cherbourg. We had 50% casualties in our mortar company. Now, that doesn't mean they were all killed. That's the total, killed and wounded.
And how was your first day in service like?
Huh?
How was your first day in service like?
First day in service, kind of comical. I was drafted, went to Camp Lee, which is down near Petersburg, Virginia, and they started giving us tests. We started early in the morning, and they went on to way in the afternoon. I remember one of the last things they gave us was deciphering dots and dashes.
Morse code?
Huh?
Morse code? code?
Morse code. And we got so there, you couldn't even tell one from the other. You were so exhausted. And I ended up doing, well, I was there about 5 days. And while I was there, we took these tests. And one day I was table waiter, and one day I was KP. So I didn't have time to even think about it much.
Can I ask a couple questions?
I have a few for you.
When you were in the service and at D-Day in Normandy, did you have a wife and kids or a family at home?
Did I what?
A wife and
No.
kids or a family at home?
I'm sorry, I didn't, you're really close. I don't have the best hearing.
Okay. When you were over at D-Day and in Normandy, did you have a wife and kids at home, waiting for you to come home?
Did I think about coming home?
No, did you have a wife and kids at home?
No,
Family?
I was 19.
Oh, okay. And was the invasion what you had expected it to be like? Or?
Yes and no. I knew we were going into France and a lot of enemy fire, but I had no idea what to look for really. Because the 4th Division and our company had never been in combat before. Now the 1st Division and the 9th Division, I think they had been in combat, but our battalion had not been. So it was really a new experience. And we did go on maneuvers at a place called Slapton Sands in southern England about a month before we went into France. And there he went through theoretically all the aspects of the invasion. So we had, that's the...
Yeah, can we take a few?
Oh, Megan, can you take a picture? Megan, yeah.
And then can you take a picture of me?
I don't know, there's no, there's
Did I miss the entire?
Yes, the entire interview.
Guys. Can I take a picture?
Mr. Swart, can I take some pictures with you?
yes. There's Ron Starr. I got 2 of these. Actually, it's called
Just take it.
a medal on there.
Just take it.
I got one.
What medals are those?
This is the Purple Heart,
Yeah,
and this is a bronze
I want a
star.
picture with him.
good.
I'm gonna run out to my locker really quick.
Yeah, and then can you tell Mr. Mello?
Okay, yeah. Well, I need to like get my phone. I took 2. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you, Mr. Swart.
Yeah, you passed it.
Yeah, 1 2 minutes.
I don't remember.
Is this question you want each of you only here?
No, that's our year's question.
Huh?
We're gonna ask probably like no,
You're gonna
10 or
ask these
15 of these.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Okay.
We're gonna ask some of them.
Okay. Before we start, I got a few of these, and you're welcome to take one. This is the mortar. And that's our battalion specializes in more special troops. And this, we don't have too many of those left. This shows where we came from and where you went on the invasion. We left from England. Actually, I left from Plymouth, which is way down this part of England. And Utah Beach was the most northern years and 1 month when I landed in France.
So what role did you play? I heard you were a mortar team.
Yeah, well, I did. The borders, it was a company, which was 4 major weapons divisions, companies, and then 1 headquarters. And it was special trained troops. We started training in August in Alabama, And then from there he came for us at Camp Shakes, New York, and then went into England.
Did fighting the war have an effect on your life after the war?
I'm sure it has. I can't specifically say any particular thing because I came back in February of '45, and that was about the time things were beginning to wind down in Europe, and we thought they might have to go to Japan, but I guess, answering your question, I guess I didn't get married until December after I got back, and then we started raising children. So I had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. And I started my own practice in accounting.
What rank were you in the war, like?
Sergeant.
Where were you born?
In Virginia, Fairfax City, Germantown Road and 50.
And the meat section of the Giant?
Huh?
The meat section of the Giant?
Where the Giant is, yeah. And aside from that, we're right now at Poplar Tree Road and Stringfellow. If you go back to Route 50, turn left, go down the first hill, and right on the left is where my mother was born. So we have ties to this area.
When were you born?
May 6, 1925.
Did you have any friends or loved ones in the war?
Have what?
Friends or loved ones? Friends or loved ones in the war?
Like if they were already in the war, like if they were already in a war, or if you have friends that were with you in the war.
Well, a lot of my high school friends, I was only 17 when I graduated from high school. And a lot of my high school friends went right into service. Well, my mother passed away in my senior year, so I had to stay around to help take the place of what she failed to give us. And then I made friends in the Army.
Did you keep a diary or a book about the war?
No, I did not.
Did you see or meet any presidents after the war? Or during?
Did I what?
See or meet any presidents during or after the war?
I went back to France for the 40th and 50th and 60th anniversary of D-Day. And the 40th, it was Ronald Reagan. And I didn't actually meet him. He passed right by where I was standing. And then in 50, it was Bill Clinton. And the 60th, George Bush. And I sat with the governor of Maryland at the ceremony at Omaha Beach. Omaha Beach is where the burial is, most of the servicemen.
What branch of the military were you in?
What branch was it? U.S. Army.
Basically no more questions.
Can we go? Yeah. How old were you when you landed on Utah Beach?
How old was I? 19 years and 1 month.
Were there any good memories made while you were in the Army? If so, what was one?
Any good memories? Well, I think saw the reaction of the French people when they were liberated. I think that was something you can always remember. And then I went back for the 40th anniversary, and we were entertained by a lot of schools. I say a lot, 2 or 3. And that was very entertaining and memories.
Do you wish you could go back in time to fix something that you did differently?
Do I wish I could go back?
Go back in time to fix something that you did, change it?
I'm not sure I'd want to go back.
Did you rescue anyone from near death?
Beg your pardon?
Did you rescue anyone from almost dying while you were in service?
I can't hear you.
Did you rescue anyone from almost dying?
Well, a couple fellows said I did, but I didn't. No.
What was the hardest part about being in the war?
The uncertainty of tomorrow.
How did you get this shrapnel inside your body? I heard about it.
You got shot.
Shot like by a bullet?
I was shot the first time, July 7th, through my right arm. About 7 o'clock one morning, we were moving up to make an attack. And they opened fire right to our left. And the fellow I was with, he tore his jacket almost in threads, and I got a bullet in the right arm. Then they sent me back to England for a couple months. The last time, I got hit with shell fragments, fractured my wrist, and tore my elbow off. And today, that's as straight as I can get it.
Did you ever have time to send letters to your loved ones back home? Did you ever have time to send letters to people back home?
Oh, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks after we got into France. Before we went into France, you could write almost any time you wanted.
Would you ever suggest anyone to do the types of things you did for their country?
No,
Why is that?
it's just too dangerous. As you look back to it now. See, the 4 observers, which we were right with the front point infantry. And we were never the squad that was in front, but we were right there with the battalion commander, and he would tell us what they were doing and tell us where he wanted to fire. And if he said, this is our objective, then on the map we would find the azimuth of our guns. See, the guns, the borders, are about up to 2.5 miles back from the front line. And what you did with this, when it was 4 mortars to a platoon, and you could shoot about up to 2.5 miles, so it was not as accurate. Now, I don't really know what a mortar is or not, but it's simply, you look at this is a tube. You drop the shell down like this, it goes poof, and it's not too accurate. But ours had lands and grooves. So what that is, it's all around the barrel, like a rifle. There's a ridge, a valley, a ridge, a valley. And it gets the rotation going, and they're more accurate than the 60s and 81s. So we were always, you might say, moving as long as we were advancing.
What was your motivation that kept you fighting?
Motivation for what?
That kept you fighting instead of deserting or...
What she said?
What was the motivation that kept you fighting instead of deserting your platoon?
Well, the motivation was that we had to get rid of Hitler and take back the land that they had taken, the Germans, and for everybody back home, really. You were fighting for them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I can't hear you one.
No, it's okay. I don't talk very loud.
I don't hear very good. It's a double disadvantage. Who's next?
One more.
You must have questions.
Do you guys have your questions?
Yeah.
You guys interview?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you sign next?
Let's go.
Which major battles did you participate in?
Beg your pardon?
Which major battles did you participate in?
D-Day invasion, and I think the 30 days after that, St. Lo. And then when I came back, it was a Hurricane Forest and one battle before and after.
Were you ever concerned that the U.S. might lose?
Was I ever concerned of what?
If the U.S. might lose?
No. By the time we went into France, it was pretty obvious that we were going to lose a lot of men. but we were going to win the war.
When the war was finally over, what was your reaction, and what were you planning to do when you get back home?
Ask me again.
When the war was finally over, what was your reaction, and what were you planning to do when you got back home?
Well, I was wounded in November, and I went back by hospital ship to the United States in February. So by that time, you knew they were marching across Germany into going toward Berlin, and you knew it was almost certain that we were going to win. I don't think anybody had doubts even when we started. But then D-Day in Europe was Victory Day, excuse me. I think it was May 7th, around that time. And then it was about 3 or 4 months later that they dropped the atomic bombs on Japan, and then the war was over.
What was D-Day in Utah Beach like?
Well, I've heard what Omaha was like, and it was not like that. We lost 250-man killed on Utah Beach the first day, and it was about 2,500 the first hour or two at Omaha Beach. So by the time I landed, which was with the second wave, most of the close fire rifles were out of range. They'd been driven back. So we didn't strike any artillery fire until we were well into France.
What were your living conditions like? What were your living conditions like?
What conditions?
Living conditions like.
As well as could be expected. We landed in France. We had 3 or 4 days rations with us. Now the rations we had were sea rations, which come in a can, and you had one for every meal. Well, you wouldn't have a chance to eat very many of them, and you'd have to open them and throw them away lots of times. And then they gave you a D-bar, which is a concentrated chocolate, which was supposed to give you the energy for all day. So we had 3 days rations plus these D-bars. So that was the best we could get. So there weren't anything unexpected.
When did you think the war was going to end? When did you think the war was going to end?
What did you say?
When do you think the war was going to end?
Well, when I left there in February, I thought it was real close. Now, I was shot in November in Germany, or shell fragments. And I was operated on in Germany, operated on again in Belgium, and then they flew some of the patients back to England in the middle of December, which was just prior to the Battle of the Bulge. And that was all. But I escaped it by being shot up earlier.
Were you ever concerned about your family at home?
Yes, it wasn't a thing I could do. In fact, I think I went about 6 weeks without hearing from home one time, and the Red Cross contacted me.
Did the Soviet Union ever
Speak up, I can't hear you.
Was the Soviet Union a concern for you after World War II ended?
I didn't hear
Was the Soviet Union ever a concern for you after the war?
that. Yes. You went through the Cold War. We had to fly supplies to Germany. And I was kind of inclined like Patton. He says, we'll fight the SOBs now rather than later. And he was willing to fight Russia right then. And really, it makes a lot of sense, but we weren't interested in prolonging the war anymore.
Did you have any good friends when you were in the war?
Have any good one?
Friends.
Killed? Yeah, I had a couple of good friends killed, and then 4 or 5 of them, my better friends, all my friends, but they made it back to the States, and we got together a good many times. But unfortunately, they've all passed on now. And that close-knit friends of ours, kind of a little segment of the company, are all dead.
What did you think about the Germans that you fought?
Think about what?
What did you think about the Germans that you fought?
What did you think about the Germans that you fought? Were they like human beings or were they vicious?
In Normandy, they had brought in a bunch of Austrian. They captured Austria when they took over Austria. They put them over in that part of France, and they would give up as soon as they had a chance. First 4 or 5 days in France, you had them walk out right in front of you, comrade. As soon as they got a chance, and they didn't have an SS trooper behind them, they would give up because they didn't want to fight the war. And the Germans themselves, if you got the black coats or the SS, they would fight to the death.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
John, the question I have, you know, you go to the beach here. What was it like when the LST came in to land on the beach and you're confronted with shells coming off the mountain? I mean, when the LST got to the beach, tell us what you did at that point. I understand a lot of the guys drowned at that point. Tell me how you got off the LST to go on the beach.
Well, where we got off the LSTs was at a depth we could walk in.
Oh.
So I never saw any soldiers actually drown. But Utah Beach was, if you want to say it, the softest of the beachheads. I'm not sure about the Canadians and British, but of the two, Omaha was the one that was really bloody.
But in the meantime, the Germans are shelling you at that point. So you got to get off the LST, get on the beach, and then defend yourself from the Germans. How did you handle that mentally?
Well, I was just saying, we were lucky that when we got there, Utah basically is flat ground. It's so flat they could flood fields near it. And the Germans had no place to really dig in or hide.
Oh, okay.
Or where we landed at Utah Beach, there was a big pillbox, but that got knocked out early. So actually, I didn't get too much rifle fire as I came down the ramp.
But you've told a story about crawling into a farmyard where a woman's milking a cow, and they're shooting at you at the same time by the old lady.
Well, that was after we had left the beach.
Right.
It was near St. Marie de Mont. There was a lady that was milking her cow. I guess that she had to milk it. So what?
Where were you while she was milking the cow?
Running. You know, I was driving a Jeep at that point, and she was over in the field to my left. But there was a little one-man German tank in a front yard with a German draped over his head. They just took it. I can't explain to them how the French people reacted at times.
She milks the cow while you're being shot at.
Yeah. It was early in the morning.
Middle of the morning.
Do you guys have any questions?
Oh, yeah. What was your biggest concern going into a foreign country?
What was your biggest concern going into a foreign country?
The only thing I was concerned about was bullets and artillery coming at me.
What advice do you want to give to the younger generation based on your experiences?
What advice do you want to give to these young people regarding the things you learned?
Try to stay out of wars. War is hell, as the saying goes. And sooner or later, if you're in a war, you aren't going to make it back. Some of us that were in wars made it back, luckily. I mean, one day, for example, before I got shot the first time, I came back from the front to get in the Jeep and supplies, and somebody said, "John, what'd you do to your aerial?" I had a 300 radio on my back, about 20 pounds, I think. I said, "What do you want to do with it?" He said, "It shot off." He said, "Drooped." And I had the aerial above my head out here. Shot, bullet hit that about halfway up, and it was just bent over. But I didn't
the bullet had missed you that much then, is what you're saying.
So you don't worry about those that miss you. The saying goes, if you hurt it, don't worry about it, it's already gone. And then I'd say the artillery shells, a good bit of the time in Normandy, but every fifth shell would be a dud from the Germans. Okay.
Do you guys have any more questions?
If I may interject, I have one other question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but I was just wondering, what moments in the war do you think you will remember for the rest of your life?
What moment during the war you will remember the rest of your life?
Well, the first time I was shot. And let me say this, I got injured twice, and at both times when I least expected it. This was 7 o'clock in the morning the first time, and this fellow and I were walking rapidly toward the next hedgerow. We went across the opening in the French field, which is so the wagons that go back and forth between them. And about the time we hit that opening, they opened up on us with a purple gun. And then the last time, they asked us to, it was in the Hurtgen Forest. And that was the only time that while I was there that you heard the command, fix bayonets and go forward. Now, I had a carbine, so they don't carry with bayonets. So I just had to hang back. But they said they wanted to go as far as the crossroads that evening and take that. So they asked us to shell it. So I think I had about 4 rounds of white phosphorus and 4 rounds of high explosives.
You hear what he said? It had white phosphorus. When you read the report, that's what the Germans hated most, was the white phosphorus.
Let me explain what that is. White phosphorus shell, have you ever seen anybody strike a match and get the point under the, where it's still burning?
Yeah.
Well, phosphorus, that's what it is. And if I shot here and it burst right there, it would run like water by gravity.
So it's kind of like a napalm strike?
Almost. And in fact, the day I got cut off behind German lines, we knew where the Germans had dug in that night. So we dropped white phosphorus in on them. You could hear them screaming. And then as soon as you dropped the white phosphorus in, they got out of the foxholes and dropped high explosives in, and they were already out. They had no further protection. So that's kind of the way you regulated your shells. So as I was saying, we shelled this crossroads in the Hurtgen Forest. And at the time, the last round that I had ordered fell. They dumped them in on us, and I don't know if it was mortar or artillery, but it burst on top of a tree, pine tree. And my friend, a piece went through his steel helmet into his head, and he was knocked out. Of course, I was bloody as a cut throat of a beef. But anyway, I called the medic, and usually the medics could come if they were in the area, and we had been stationary there for 4 or 5 hours, so it was one right there. So I remember him, when he got through, he patched me up, put a tourniquet on, he said, "Hold this." I said, "I thought I was supposed to loosen the tourniquet every 30 seconds or something. I don't remember now." And he said, "If you don't keep that tight, you're going to lose more than the use of your arm." So that scared me to death. So I held tight to it until I was evacuated.
A follow-on question to your question, if you don't mind. You asked one of the most important questions. What would be one thing? The question I would follow on, John, did it affect you that you're killing people, that you're shooting and killing people?
Until they got close to you, yes. The first time you put a shell out or a bullet out, and then later you find they're dead, it gets you a little bit. But then you realize that it wasn't for you shooting them, probably. They would have gotten you.
No one was really supposed to ask a question like that because our history teacher said it's too graphic. So.
Okay.
Is it possible we could use these last few minutes to take some pictures?
Can we take some pictures?
I couldn't hear you.
Can we take some pictures?
Yeah, take any pictures.
There's like 2 minutes left.
But I have one more question.
All right.
And it's not really about the Normandy or war or World War II, but what do you think about the person in Afghanistan who deserted his platoon and created plans with the Taliban? And we traded 5.
Well, before I answer, let me say this. I'm a rather conservative person. Now, when I was in the Army, somebody left post, he was immediately court-martialed. Now, even if he was injured or in enemy hands, he was sort of out of the picture. I would like to know the truth behind this sergeant, whether he did desert. If he deserted, I don't have much sympathy for him. And I think we made a serious error to let our enemy know that we will negotiate for prisoners, especially when you have a 5-for-1 ratio. So I was very dismayed about it, but I'd like to get the truth first.
Can we take a picture together?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Did you take care of?
Hold on. Got it.
Thank you.
Johnny might take your Purple Heart out.
Oh.
It's right there in your pocket.
I didn't take them out for you.
We can take a couple. Bronze diamond.
Well, there's the Purple Heart. And that oak leaf cluster means you shot twice.
Yeah.
And that's the Bronze Star.
Can you take a picture?
Okay.
Jack, what's the next schedule?
We have to go to the Rosen Room. For,
You're going to take it?
yes.
Can we take one last picture?
One last picture? Okay.
Yes, Jack.
Wait, Jack.
Don't do that.
You can be in the picture, Jack, if you want.
All right, let's go.
Guys, last one out. Don't have to close
Got
the
it.
door.